Good evening, everyone, and I hope you all can hear me. And I welcome you to this uh, session, the first in a series of talks on the happy life, happiness, and virtue in St. Thomas Aquinas. There was one bottling company advert which says, "Open happiness." And when that came out, it made a significant impact. You see billboards says just open happiness. And I thought this bottling company did a fantastic job in making this sort of promotion because they realized that everyone desired happiness. And so if you desired happiness and you wanted happiness, well, it's easy. Just buy our product, just open the bottle, and then there you have happiness. And I think that is fundamental in addressing the human quest, the deepest quest of the human being. Has human life got a purpose? If it has, what is the purpose? We make many choices in life, and every day get some education, get a job, perhaps start a family, have some earning, save some money, retire, have some holiday. Is there any ultimate goal to all of these important choices we make in life? And what is it that we are looking for ultimately in life? Is there the one thing that we can possess in life? And once we have it, once we have attained it, we can say, yes, we are satisfied. And sometimes we have connections. We know people, we have experiences, and we say we're very happy. But even when people say, oh, they're very happy, there is still something more in life they are looking for. So what is happiness? What does it mean to be happy? And if you think you are happy, is there something more you desire in life? And if there is still something you desire, what is it? Can we really be happy in this life? And if we can be happy, what does it mean to be happy? What must we do to attain happiness? Now, these are some of the questions we hope to explore in the coming weeks as we look at the happy life, happiness, and virtue in St. Thomas Aquinas. We will take a look at the important thing we want to consider in this course. In the first week, today obviously, we will look at some background to happiness in St. Thomas Aquinas. And then next week, hopefully, we will look at happiness as the ultimate end. What exactly does St. Thomas mean by happiness? And what happiness is not? Then the third week, we'll have a glimpse of virtue, according to St. Thomas Aquinas. And finally, we will look at virtue, happiness, and the beatific vision. This course is part of the DOMSEC program, and is aimed at providing ongoing doctrinal and spiritual formation of believers. It helps us, hopefully, it should help us to deepen our understanding and practice of the faith. It is not intended to be academic. Some of the material, though, from St. Thomas Aquinas may appear a bit technical, but you don't have to worry. We will attempt to explain such material. We want to begin by looking at this great mind, St. Thomas Aquinas. St. Thomas Aquinas was studying liberal arts in Naples when he joined the Dominicans in April of 1244. It was at Naples he was introduced to the philosopher Aristotle, whom he called the philosopher, and other thinkers, such as the Arab philosopher Averroes, the Jewish philosopher Moses Maimonides. His family was opposed to his joining the Dominicans. He was taken from his studies in Naples and detained in their family castle for a while between 1244 and 1245. However, in the fall of 1245, he returned to the Dominicans and was sent to Paris, where he studied under the great Dominican saint and professor, Albert the Great. Thomas, in the spring of 1256, already became a master of theology, a great mind. And during this time, he wrote a number of works. From 1259 to 1268, he sojourned in Italy, teaching and writing, beginning with Naples, then he moved to Orvieto, and then to Rome. His time in Italy was a time of prolific writing. He wrote the Summa Contra Gentiles, and he began his magisterial work, the Summa Theology, and also wrote some biblical commentaries. In 1268, he was back in Paris as a regent master. He continued work on the Summa Theology and wrote a library of other works. In December of 1273, he stopped writing, abandoning almost suddenly his lifelong routine. It is reported that he had a vision. In early 1274, he left Naples for Lyon, since he had been invited to the Second Council of Lyon to advise on matters of ecumenical theology, on which St. Thomas was an expert. But St. Thomas never got to that council. He became seriously ill on the way and stopped at the Cistercian Abbey of Fossanova, south of Rome. And on the 7th of March, 1274, St. Thomas died. Now, St. Thomas is arguably the greatest theologian in the church. People often think of St. Thomas and St. Augustine. And a number of popes have said a lot about him to give you an idea of the sort of brilliance we're talking about here. For example, Pope Pius V, who declared him a doctor of the church, said he was the most brilliant light of the church. Pope Benedict XV stated that the eminent commendations of Thomas Aquinas by the Holy See no longer permit a Catholic to doubt that he was divinely raised up, that the church might have a master whose doctrine should be followed in a special way at all times. Wow. Beautiful statements by the popes. And we see also Pius XI said, indeed, we so approve of the tributes paid to his almost divine brilliance that we believe Thomas should be called not only angelic, but common or universal doctor of the church. St. John Paul II said the church has been justified in consistently proposing St. Thomas as a master of thought and a model of the right way to do theology. St. Thomas quoted so many times in the Catechism of the Catholic Church. To understand St. Thomas is to understand a very important aspect of his theology. The philosophy of nature of St. Thomas Aquinas would not be complete without mentioning the teaching on the four causes. So we want to begin this journey on happiness in St. Thomas Aquinas by looking at what is so fundamental to his teaching on happiness, the four causes, particularly the final cause. St. Thomas, following the philosopher Aristotle, thinks that material objects do have four causes: the material cause, the formal cause, the efficient cause, and the final cause. Like Aristotle, for St. Thomas, the most extensive scientific account of any physical object or event involves mentioning its four causes. It turns out that for St. Thomas, the four causes are important for understanding the human being and the human quest for happiness, particularly the fourth one, the final cause. So we're beginning a journey and want to lay the background, the foundation to his understanding of happiness. The four causes. And to do this, we want to use a material object. We're going to use statue to describe the four causes, and then we'll zero in to the final cause, and that will then provide the background for understanding happiness in St. Thomas Aquinas. We're going to use the statue of someone some of you will be seeing very soon. We've always told you we're expecting two young, brilliant Dominicans to arrive here, and Father Gerard is around, is doing his isolation. Father Gerard is very talented, an artist, he paints, a sculptor. So we're going to use his work to explain the four causes in St. Thomas Aquinas, and this will provide a background to happiness. And you have one of his works there, the statue, the Fulani woman, which he did in 2007. And it's displayed at the Federal Ministry of Tourism in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. And then you see the bust of St. Dominic, our founder, which he also created in 2011. And that bust of St. Dominic adorns our Dominican University campus in Nigeria. So we're going to use all of this, and Father Gerard himself, he is a young priest, smiling all the time, very talented. We use all of this to explain Thomas Aquinas and the four causes. So we take one of the works, for example, the four causes. The first is the material cause. The material cause answers the question, what is it made of? For example, the bust of St. Dominic by Father Gerard, made of cement. So the material cause of that statue of St. Dominic is cement. What is it made of? The material cause is that out of which a thing comes to be and which persists. The next cause of that statue of St. Dominic is the formal cause. And the formal cause answers the question, what is it? This is a statue. What is it? The former cause speaks of the essential attributes of a thing, not the accidental attributes. What is this thing? For material things, it is the form or original pattern, the account of which it is to be such and such. In this case, it is the shape of the statue, distinguishes it. A cement could be used to make block, but also a statue. So between a block and a statue, the material cause is the same, cement. But the formal cause distinguishes a block from a statue. So the formal cause answers the question, what is it? There is also the efficient cause. The efficient cause answers the question, what created it? What preserves this thing in existence? Or what brings about some features in it? The efficient cause is the primary source of a thing's changing or remaining as it is. Now, what is impotency cannot bring itself to act. The cement, for example, is impotency. It can bring itself to the act, to the form of a statue of St. Dominic. Rather, it needs an agent in order that the form of the statue might pass from potency to act. Therefore, it is necessary that besides the matter or the material cause, the cement, and the form, there must be an agent, something that acts to bring about this thing. And in the case of the statue of St. Dominic, the efficient cause is the sculptor, namely Father Gerard himself. So Father Gerard is the efficient cause. There's also the final cause. The final cause answers the question, what is its purpose? What is the purpose of this statue? It is the end, or that for the sake of which something is made or done or created. This also includes the tendencies that are natural to things. So the final cause of the statue is the purpose, the end, the goal for which it was made. For example, it could be to adorn the university campus. Now, for St. Thomas Aquinas, what is important at the end of it all in its analysis? It's the final cause. The final cause as the end goal. So we see the material cause, it's acted upon. We have the form of a statue, but the agent who acts upon this, who brings it to be, is the efficient cause. So the agent acts for an end, for a goal, and that is the final cause. But Gerard, the efficient cause, acts for an end, brings a statue of St. Dominic to be, into existence, but there's always a purpose, a goal. So the final cause, the goal, is the cause of the action of the efficient cause. In other words, the final cause is the reason, the purpose for which Father Gerard acts. So it is the cause of the cause, or the cause of the action of the efficient cause. The goal, the end, is the object of the willful action. Father Gerard acts. And in life, we make choices. The key thing here is the final cause for St. Thomas. We make choices. Deliberate actions, willful actions. And the choices we make have a goal. We act for an end. Eventually, he will come to see that happiness becomes a goal, the final cause. St. Thomas believes that humans act for an end. And an interesting passage here we see of actions done by man, those alone are properly called human, which are proper to man as man. Now, man differs from irrational animals in this, that is master of his actions. Wherefore, those actions alone are properly called human, of which man is master. Now, man is master of his actions through his reason and will. Whence to the free will is defined as a faculty and will of reason. Therefore, those actions are properly called human, which proceed from a deliberate will. And if any other actions are found in man, they can be called actions of a man, but not properly human actions, since they are not proper to man as man. Now it is clear that whatever actions proceed from a power are caused by that power in accordance with the nature of its object. But the object of the will is the end and the good. Therefore, all human actions must be for an end. We're going to explain this passage. But it's important to note what is happening here. St. Thomas wants to look at happiness in the human being. Well, he begins by saying to understand a material object, including the human being, we should proceed with the four causes, because the four causes provide an extensive scientific account of a material object. So he looks at the four causes: the material, the former, the efficient, and the final. He now says, well, we pick the final cause. That is the most important, because we are humans. The final cause is the end of our action. All our actions can lead us to a certain goal, possibly an ultimate goal. So he picks the final cause as the most important. And from now on, we'll dwell on the final cause, not the other causes as such. Perhaps the efficient cause, because it is a human being who acts. So the next step he's saying here, human beings act for an end. Our choices in life have an end. By end, we mean a goal, a purpose. And this is the basis for evaluating human actions. So let's look at it. What does it mean by human action? Deliberate action, action proceeding from deliberate will. So something that comes from the free will. We choose, we make options. Sneezing, for example, will not be considered human action. It's an act of the human being, but it doesn't proceed from the deliberate will. The object is that to which something is directed. For example, the object of sin is directed, the act of sin, is directed to a visible object. You see something visible, color, that is the object. So the object is that to which something is directed. So if you are acting, making a choice in life, what is that to which that choice is directed? So what is the object of our deliberate actions? So St. Thomas says, just as every act of sin is directed to a visible object, so also the act of willing is directed to an end. There is an end. When we make choices in life, we act deliberately. There's always a purpose. There's an end. And it's going to connect end with the notion of happiness. That human beings are distinguished as rational beings from irrational beings is on the basis of will and reason. That we can make deliberate choices which have consequences. And the choices have an end, a goal. And it's important to understand that humans act for an end. Let's take, for example, looking at a human being as a functional being. Let's take a good chef. To be a good chef, you have to do certain things and do them in a certain way. As a chef, you can be said to be a good chef or even a bad chef, depending on whether or not you do things in a certain way. For example, it may be begin by getting the proper training. So you make that choice. Get the proper training, use the right recipe, follow certain standards, whatever it is. All these are deliberate actions. And these actions are ordered to a specific goal, to some ultimate end, namely to be a good chef. So to be a good chef, the chef has to take certain steps. All actions of the chef are directed towards one end, the good chef. So good is a certain standard. To be a good chef is to attain the perfection of being a chef. That perfection is the crowning good, the purpose for which this chef is a chef. Let's look at this the other way. So what does it mean to be a human being or a good human being? Well, to be a good human being is to attain that perfect and crowning good, the purpose for which the human being exists. So think of the human nature in such a functional way. All deliberate human actions, all our choices in life are for the purpose ultimately of some good, some goal or end which we are attempting to achieve by our deliberate human actions. This is the idea of the final cause, the purpose, the final cause. All our actions ultimately are directed to an end, a final cause. Someone decides to study, take an exam, earn a certificate, get a job, maybe start a family. These are important human actions, choices we make. So what is that perfect or crowning good of all of this that we do in life? In other words, what is the ultimate end, the final end, the last end of all human action? Whatever that perfect good is, that is the ultimate end, the last end, the final cause of human actions. Let's look at another example here. Someone decides to build a desk. So the person is efficient because builds a desk. Well, the immediate purpose, the final cause of that action may be to study. So study is the final cause. The one who has built the desk, maybe a student, is the efficient cause. The final cause is the study. But the study itself is not the last cause. It's not the ultimate goal. The person is studying in order to pass an exam. So you have another end to pass an exam. Well, why do they want to pass this exam? So as to earn some qualification. Well, that becomes another end. Well, why do they want to earn a qualification? Maybe to get a job. To get a job becomes another end. Well, get a job. Why? Maybe to earn a living, better quality of life. That becomes another end. So what we see here is proximate end. So you keep going and going and going. So study becomes a proximate end. To pass an exam, another proximate end. Earn a qualification, a proximate end. get a job, a proximate end. So the question is, are we in a maze in life? All of the things we do, is there an ultimate end to which all of this is directed? Is there an ultimate purpose to all this? To study, pass exam, earn qualification, get a job? Can we go on forever? Is there an ultimate end to all these proximate actions in life? Is there a purpose? Is there the ultimate goal to which everything we do is directed? St. Thomas looks at these questions. And that takes us to something very important. Can there be several ends in life? Or is there just one thing all humans are looking for? The many choices we make in life, all the actions we take, is there the one thing we're looking for? To be the good human being. That satisfaction, the attainment of which everything else is accomplished. That the deepest longing of the human being is satisfied. Is there an ultimate purpose in life? The next thing St. Thomas looks at here in asking if there's an ultimate purpose, he says, maybe there can be several ends in life. Maybe there is no ultimate purpose in life. Maybe it's just the way life is. We do things and we're not sure there is one ultimate purpose for all of our actions. The choices we make in life, the lifestyle. Is there the one thing that we're looking for? Take the example of the chef, the crowning good, that ultimate good, that perfect good that says it all. St. Thomas says it is impossible for one man's will to be directed at the same time to diverse things as last ends. The last end means the ultimate purpose in life. St. Thomas gives three reasons. We'll look at one or two. So first, because since everything desires its own perfection, a man desires for his ultimate end that which he desires as his perfect and crowning good. Hence, he quotes St. Augustine. In speaking of the end of good, we mean now, not that it passes away so as to be no more, but that it is perfected so as to be complete. It is therefore necessary for the last end so to fulfill man's appetite, that nothing is left besides it for man to desire, which is not possible if something else be required for this, for his perfection. Consequently, it is not possible for the appetite so to tend to two things as though each were its perfect good. Here is what St. Thomas is saying. Let's look at it this way. Everything desires its own perfection. That is its perfect and crowning good. He gave an example of the chef. The chef desires to be the perfect chef, the good chef. And the chef takes steps to attain this perfect and crowning good. So the perfect and crowning good is the ultimate goal. As humans, we desire our perfection, our perfect and crowning good. So we can say that the perfection of the human being is to attain the perfect good for which the human being exists. So to be human, we want to attain that perfection, the purpose for which we are human. The purpose for which you are human. Now, whatever the ultimate good is, whatever purpose we might desire, it must be that beyond which nothing else can be desired. It must be that beyond which nothing else can satisfy. Otherwise, it cannot be the last end, and it cannot be the perfect and crowning good. A thing's perfection is to attain the purpose of its existence. So the human perfection, to be the good human being, is to attain the purpose of our human existence. And that purpose has to be something. Once we attain, we say, yes, this is it. This is the ultimate goal. If it is not one, if after attaining it we desire something else, it can't be the last end. It can't be the ultimate goal. For it to be ultimate, it has to be that, the attainment of which nothing else is desired. That's what St. Thomas is saying. So there can't be many ends. All of our actions in life, all the things we do, therefore must be proximate ends. Like building a desk, studying, passing an exam, ending a qualification. All of these must be proximate end to an ultimate end in life. There must be one. And it's quite interesting. Sometimes you see people who are quite happy in the family setting. They say, we're very happy. But they see something in life we're looking for. Even when we feel we're happy with our family, with our connections, there's always something in the human being. This is the point he's saying. There can't be many ultimate ends. There must be that perfect crowning good. What it is, we'll get to see later on. But what he's establishing here is to say there is a final cause that is the last, the ultimate, the purpose for which we exist. Another reason he gives why there has to be only one ultimate end in life, one purpose, ultimate purpose. He said the third reason is because since voluntary actions receive their species from the end, as we've stated previously, they must need receive their genus from the last end, which is common to them all. Just as natural things are placed in a genus according to a common form. Since then, all things that can be desired by the will belong as such to one genus. The last end must needs be one. And all the more because in every genus there is one first principle, and the last end has a nature of a first principle. Now, as the last end of man, simply as man is to the human race, so is the last end of any individual man to that individual. Therefore, just as of all men, there is naturally one last end, so the will of an individual man must be fixed on one last end. Let's explain what he's saying here. We'll need to explain species and genus. So species will be the individual under a class, genus. So Peter, Andrew, Mary, Martha, they are individual, they are species under a genus called human being. So they all participate in one nature, human being. In the same way, we look at end, to study as a proximate end, pass exam as a proximate end qualification as a proximate end, get a job as a proximate end. He's saying all of these participate in one thing, the last end. Just as Peter, Andrew, Mary, and Martha all share one thing in common, the human being. They are all species under the human being. All the ends we have in life, the goals we have in life, must share in one thing, participate. And that in which they participate becomes the principle, the ultimate, the goal towards which every individual end is directed. And this is such a beautiful thing. Let's look at an interesting example. You can have 4 Dominicans. Okay, you have Father Michael, and you have Father Victor, you have Father Clement, and Father Gerard. And they all desire one thing: a delicious meal. A delicious meal. Now, for one person, well, a delicious meal is the tender British chicken. That's for Father Victor. And then you have as dessert for him cake and Bailey's Irish cream. So for him, that is a delicious meal. For some other person, well, Father Clement, is roast dinner, carvery. That is delicious meal. And for Father Gerard, well, he can eat anything as long as for the dessert he has enough ice cream. Well, that is a delicious meal. And for me, of course, it is full Welsh breakfast with lava bread. So what you have here, well, full Welsh breakfast with lava bread. It's a species of a delicious meal for me. Tender British chicken. It's a species of delicious meal for one person. And then you have ice cream. And then you have roast dinner. But all of this participate in a delicious meal. Even if they are individual in their way, they all share in one thing, something universal: a delicious meal. So in life, we make choices. And we think, well, I've got to do this in order to find fulfillment. But whatever we do, all our ends participate in one ultimate end, the last end. And that is what St. Thomas is exploring. What is this last end? Otherwise, there will be no beginning in the first place. Because when we act, the first time we act, for example, someone wants to study, there is a goal. And if that goal for studying is not the last one, there's something beyond it. And if that which is beyond it is not the ultimate one, there's something beyond it. And it might be impossible to go into infinity. There must therefore be that one ultimate end, which causes the first end in the first instance to be the one ultimate end, which drives the agent, the efficient cause, to act. One ultimate end to which all our actions in life is directed. One thing that we desire most fundamentally, ultimately, even when we get a job, we get education, we start a family. All of this is directed towards one ultimate end that fulfills everything. And that is the interesting point he's making here. They all participate. We're going to take a 15-minute break and come back at 7:30. At 7:30, hopefully, we should finish this session before 8 o'clock. So I hope you've enjoyed this first session. It's just a foundation to happiness. And we'll come back at 7:30. Thank you. Welcome back. Just to summarize what we said in the first part of today's conversation, St. Thomas believes that to understand a material object, it's important to look at the four causes, the material, the formal, the efficient, and the final cause. But of these four causes, the most important is the final cause because it is a purpose for which the agent, the efficient cause, acts. The efficient cause will cause a thing to be, but the efficient cause acts for a purpose. So the final cause is the cause of the action of the efficient cause. And St. Thomas sees the human being in that respect as an agent, moral agent. We act. And we are distinguished from irrational beings because we have reason and will. We want to know the truth and we desire the good. And St. Thomas then says, well, the perfection of a thing is the attainment of its crowning good, the attainment of the purpose for which it exists. In other words, a thing's perfection will consist in attaining its last end, ultimate final cause. And we humans have deliberate actions. We act for an end. We make choices, deliberate choices. And sometimes these choices are for some proximate end. You choose to buy a computer in order to be able to study. And we make many choices in life. But is this all a maze? Is there the one thing that governs all our choices, that is the end of all our choices in life? To be human is to attain the crowning good of being human. The human will moves, desires the good. And the one good that is the ultimate goal of all our desire has to be one such that when we attain it, nothing else is to be desired. In other words, all the good we desire every day should, in a way, be directed to one ultimate good that crowns it all. Otherwise, there will be no beginning even to take the first steps to desire some good. And if we do things in life and we make choices, is there a purpose to life? Is there a meaning to life? We come to be and we live through life. Is there a purpose? And this is the question he's exploring. Maybe there are many last ends. But if there are many, the will desires the absolute good. And the absolute good has to be one. And that is why humans search for one thing. It's not going to move us to look at if we agree that there is the last end, there is one purpose to life. Do we all agree? Even if we agree that there's one purpose, what exactly will this be? We'll look at that shortly. Are we agreed on what the last end is? So St. Thomas says we can speak of the last end in two ways. First, considering only the aspect of last end. Secondly, considering the thing in which the aspect of last end is realized. So then, as to the aspect of last end, all agree in desiring the last end, since all desire the fulfillment of their perfection. And it is precisely this fulfillment in which the last end consists. But as to the thing in which this aspect is realized, all men are not agreed as to their last end. Since some desire riches as their consummate good, some pleasure, others something else. Thus, to every taste, the sweet is pleasant, but to some, the sweetness of wine is most pleasant. To others, the sweetness of honey or of something similar. Yet, that sweetness is absolutely the best of all pleasant things, in which he who has the best taste takes most pleasure. In like manner, that good is most complete, which the man with well-disposed affections desires for his last end. Wow, this is interesting. It's interesting what St. Thomas is saying here. There are actually two things it's saying here. The aspect of the last end, that there is some last end. Human beings desire the fulfillment of their nature, one purpose, whatever it is in life. They desire the good. The perfection of a thing is to attain its crowning good, the purpose for which it exists. So as to the last end, we will all agree on this. We agree that all humans desire the ultimate fulfillment of their perfection, and this is the last end. But then the second thing he says here, what precisely does this last end consist in? This is where humans are not agreed. Some say we desire the last end or the ultimate fulfillment in riches, others in pleasure, others still in fame. And this is the point he raises here. But that the human being desires the good. That is the nature of the will. The will's object is the end, the good. That desire is there in the human being. But what exactly is this ultimate fulfillment of the human nature? That is where we are not agreed. And so what is this last end? Well, St. Thomas looks at Aristotle, whom he calls the philosopher. He speaks of the end in twofold, the end for which and the end by which. That is the thing itself in which is found the aspect of good and the use or acquisition of that thing. And this is interesting. What he's saying here is, what is this last end? What is it? Well, we believe we come from God, and God is the absolute good, is goodness itself. The human will desires one thing. It's the nature of the will to move towards the good as its object, the good. That is what we seek to be good. It is the nature of the human will. But if the will desires the good that can satisfy the desire of the will ultimately has to be an absolute good, the attainment of which nothing else is to be desired. And God is that absolute good. So the last end of the human being is God. In other words, the perfection of a thing is the attainment of the purpose for which it was made. So the purpose for which we exist is like St. Augustine says, Lord, you have made us for yourself, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you. The heart, the human will, desires good. In its absolute sense, the good that satisfies the human desire. And God is the only good. That's what St. Thomas is saying. So the last end of the human being is God. We came from God and we return to God. The exitus, we're from God. Reditus, as he says, we return to God because he is the absolute good. And it is the nature of the will to desire the good. But then the next thing he says, what is the means by which we can acquire this last end? Well, he says we come to our last end by knowing and loving God. We cannot comprehend God in total. Now, the one thing that enables us to come to acquire this last end, St. Thomas says, is happiness. And this is what we're going to talk about next week. What exactly is happiness? So we came from God and we return to God. But coming to attain God himself means the human being attains happiness. And happiness is the key thing that we desire, becomes the means to knowing God and loving God. In a way, to acquire God, if you want to say. St. Thomas will tell us what happiness is and what it is not. In other words, the one thing the humans desire, the last and the ultimate goal, is happiness. But can we just open happiness? What does it mean to be happy? Can we really be happy in this life? And if we can be happy in this life, could we call it a perfect happiness? And if happiness is to know God, to possess him in a way who is absolute good, is it possible on earth to be perfectly happy? And these are the questions that St. Thomas will address soon and we'll look at next week. And I hope that you've enjoyed this session. This week is to create a background, an understanding of happiness. And the key thing is the final cause. The final cause, the purpose, the end for which something comes to be, for which something exists, the purpose of human life. That is the final cause. And St. Thomas links that final cause with happiness, which brings us to God himself. Therefore, here on earth, the one thing we seek is happiness. And if happiness is what connects us to God, it means that all our choices in life, all the things we do, including our worship, everything must lead us to that one purpose: to know and to love God. Because to know and to love God is the one thing that satisfies the human desire. It has to be that, beyond which there can be nothing else to desire. It quells all desire. The question is, can we find that here on earth? And if we can, what must we do to be happy? Thank you very much. I will take any questions if you have or any comments. Hopefully next week we will then look at happiness itself and see what it is and what it is not, and what the human being must do, according to St. Thomas, if we are to attain happiness. Any questions, any comments on the live chat? Okay, Eileen, someone says, thank you, Father. You have given us plenty to think about. God bless. Thank you very much, Eileen. Oh, normal, interesting question. When the mystics experienced God, were they attaining true happiness on earth? And I think it's an interesting question, very important one. And it's one of the questions we're going to address next week to say, if we can attain happiness here on earth, can we clarify that happiness? Can we speak of perfect happiness or complete happiness here on earth? Uh, we will come to see that, yes, there is some way we can be happy, but perfect happiness or absolute one, complete one, it's in the beatific vision when we see God face to face. But I think with the mystical experience, yes, there is happiness as much or as far as it is possible here on earth, humanly speaking. Thank you very much, Norma. We will say a little bit more about that next Tuesday. Thank you. Okay, comment from Eileen Waters. Thank you, Father Michael. Eileen, thank you too. I hope that next week when we go into happiness proper, we'll find it really interesting what St. Thomas says, and he explores different notions or different means, and he begins to tell us what happiness is not, and I really find that interesting. So if there are no further comments or no questions, I would like to thank you all for being part of this evening. And I hope that in the coming weeks, we will then go in depth into happiness and virtue and the beatific vision and see what St. Thomas tells us. And hopefully, we should learn a lot from St. Thomas to help us deepen our faith and the practice of the faith. So I want to say a big thank you to you all for being here this evening. And I wish you a wonderful evening and a beautiful week ahead. Thank you very much, and bye bye.